I guess I'm one of those folks who is not in the 27%. Remember that magical number, 27% of people actually are doing what they went to college for. So this is an empty storefront up the street. But if you're not from the Palisades, I want you to imagine that this is in your local community. Now, I talked to the owner, and I crunched some numbers, and for a one-time investment of $50,000, I could create a small, profitable movie theater. Now, I'm looking for one of you to invest in this theater and be my backer, okay? And here's what I project. Over 7 years, I figure there's a 33% chance that we're going to go out of business, and you'll make nothing. There's another 33% chance that we'll end up at a break-even rate. I'll return your original investment, but you're not going to make any money. But this is why you would invest. There's a 33% chance that we're going to hit it out of the park, and you're going to make 6 times your money. So, over 7 years, you would expect to make over double your original investment, which equates to about a 10% interest rate on your bank account. Now, I know none of you are making 10% interest on your bank account, so how about it? Who's in? Raise your hand if you want to be my investor for $50,000. Somebody in the back row? Okay, great. I'm going to see you after here, and I want you to present that check, and if you have any money left, I have a bridge to sell you to. Okay, so I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an angel investor. And for those of you who don't know, an angel investor is someone who invests in startups like this movie theater. And over the years, I've launched, invested in, and evaluated hundreds of different startups. And I know there's no way I'm walking out of here with a $50,000 investment check today. What I'm here to tell you about is something magical called crowdfunding. And it's changing this equation for both entrepreneurs and investors. And I believe it's also changing the world in the process. So, same empty storefront, but this time, I'm offering you a lifetime membership for just $100. This lifetime membership includes unlimited movie tickets for you and your family, and an equal share of the profits. So here's the deal. I got really excited about this, and I jumped the gun, and I spent the last week going door to door, pre-selling memberships to your neighbors. And they were selling like hotcakes, and now, out of 500 memberships total, there are only 20 left. That's the bad news. But here's the good news for you. Some friends and I, we created this website where you can log on and right now and purchase one of the last remaining memberships for just $100. So who here, by a show of hands, would be interested, who thinks this is a great deal, would be interested in buying this lifetime membership for just $100? Raise your hand. Yep, okay. Well, it looks like we're oversubscribed. And we have our $50,000, and we're in business. And you guys are all my business partners. So let's just recap what happened. We went from having zero in investment to having $50,000 in investment. We went from having a pipe dream to having a fully functional and operational business. And we went from having an empty storefront to having a local, community-owned movie theater. That's the magic of crowdfunding. But I think crowdfunding is even more magical when you look at it from the standpoint of a Main Street investor. So I want you to imagine that instead of the Palisades movie theater, I told you I was working on the next Facebook. So do you guys all remember the story of this artist? He was asked to paint the halls of Facebook's offices early on. He decided to accept Facebook stock instead of cash. In other words, he invested his time into Facebook. Well, it was a pretty good investment decision, I would say, because when Facebook had its IPO, its initial public offering, his stock was worth $200 million. Now, granted, he got extremely lucky. But I want to show you some practical magic made possible by crowdfunding where you can get similar results without having to get so lucky. So So it turns out that if you look back over the last 30 years at all the startups that got funding, and you chose any bunch of them at random to invest in, here's the magic number. Your annualized average return would be 27%. Now, just for comparison, the average annualized return historically in the stock market is 9%. The best value investor in the world is Warren Buffett. Most people think he's the best in the world at picking stocks. His lifetime average is 25%. It turns out in the startup and angel investing world, you don't have to pick the winners. You simply have to have a diversified enough portfolio, because that way the Facebooks of the world will end up in your portfolio and they will make up for the 8 out of 10 startups that are going to go bust. Now, this isn't just a theoretical model. This is actually how the top angels and venture capitalists in Silicon Valley are doing their investing today. And it's based on rigorous math and Nobel Prize winning economics. And it goes by several different names. Moneyball for startups, Black Swan portfolio theory. But my personal favorite is spray and pray. All right? Here's the problem, though, for you as a Main Street angel investor. Where are you going to find the time to invest in 500 startups? You could go on to E-Trade right now and invest in 500 public companies, all 500 of the S&P 500, for instance, in under 2 minutes. But in angel investing, there's no such thing as a mutual fund. There's no automation, few tools, very little standardization. And as a result, it takes forever to get any one deal done. And frankly, a lot of deals that should get done don't get done. And as a consequence, most entrepreneurs would be crazy to allow you to invest $100 into their startup. Doesn't make sense. But the real challenge, so here's the thing. Crowdfunding actually solves the logistical problems that I mentioned. There is a big challenge, though, for a Main Street investor like you and me. Back in the 1930s, the US government made it illegal for you to ask for a $100 investment from your neighbor, unless they were already really wealthy. Okay? They did that to protect us from the wizards of Wall Street after the Great Depression. Supposedly, if you have a lot of money, you're able to make these investment decisions for yourself, but the rest of us, we have to be happy taking our $100 and buying government-issued lottery tickets. It just doesn't make any sense, right? It's unfair, it's undemocratic. So we started this petition. We also think it's pretty bad for the economy, because if you look at it, startups and small businesses, they account for half of the GDP in this country and 3/4 of the new jobs. So we took the petition to Washington, and we joined up with some friends, some entrepreneurs, and we introduced this bill. It was a bipartisan bill, and introduced it in Congress. It was called the Jobs Act. And lo and behold, Congress overwhelmingly voted in favor of this bill, surprisingly enough. And just as quickly, the president signed it into law. And now, presto changeo, investment crowdfunding is legal. So I promised to reveal to you the trick of how to make Wall Street-sized returns as a Main Street investor. Back to the magic number, okay? If you were to spray and pray over the next 30 years, always reinvesting your profits, you'd expect to make 1,400 times your original investment. And if that original investment was the $50,000 that I asked you to invest in my movie theater at the top of the talk, after 30 years, your portfolio value would be a cool $70 million. That's the math. Okay, so I've shown you how to harness the magic of crowdfunding to achieve unusually good returns by investing in a diversified portfolio of startups. And I've shown you how local community-owned businesses can start up and thrive, businesses that never would have existed without the magic of crowdfunding. And I've shown you a little bit about how Main Street is the true economic driver of the world economy. Keeping all that in mind, here's why I believe that investment crowdfunding has the potential to truly change the world. Up until now, only a fraction of a percent of the long-term investment capital in the world has been invested in startups. But with the passage of the Jobs Act and the rise of entrepreneurship and the advent of crowdfunding worldwide, the genie is being let out of the bottle. $200 trillion. That's the amount of investment capital that for the first time ever in history is available to be invested by everyday citizens into startups and small businesses which drive the world economy. I believe that we're at this magical moment in history where the shift is occurring, where we're about to go from being dominated by Wall Street to being liberated by Main Street. Thank you very much.